What the Falcons do? Rise up. Welcome to RiseUpReactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, lifelong sports fan. And today I just wanted to come back, kind of a random video, and talk to you guys a little bit about the NFC predictions for the rest of the season. We're kind of at the first third of the way through the season now. Have a little bit better idea of where things stand, but at the same time, there's a lot of teams that are just kind of middling. Parity has never been clearer in the NFL, and I feel like that's a good thing. There's a lot of teams and a lot of divisional races that are close right now, and that's not something I think we could say about years past. I'm going to make an AFC video as well, but I did want to take a moment to kind of rethink how things are going so far based on where we started and the remaining games. I'm not going to go through every single game altogether. I've had a chance to just kind of look through and think about how I feel like things are going to go from here on out. So I'll start with the NFC South. Right now, you have the Bucks winning the division 3-3. Falcons are 3-3. Saints 2-4, and Panthers are 1-5. So that means that right now the Falcons are losing a tiebreaker with the Bucks, but the Falcons could just as easily be in first place had we not fallen apart to the Saints in the first week, or if we'd found a way to come back against the Rams, or if the refs had done the right thing and let us have the ball one more time against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We did play a very complete game, and we were leaning heavily on the run. So, about the South, looking at the Bucs' schedule, they have a lot of tough games on their schedule. They're not playing the best football in the world, but it's not the worst schedule. It's not the toughest in the world. Looking at their floor, I think it's about 10-7. I think their ceiling is 12-5. So I do think they'll still come out on the top of the division. Falcons number 2 right now. I actually think we will either finish 2 or 1. If things go our way on a few games that should be toss-ups, I think we could finish with as high as 11-6. But I do think our floor right now is still a losing record. We still have some tough games on the slate. I have us going 8-9 as our floor, so anywhere in that range. There's about 3 games that I think are pretty up for grabs that will determine the rest of our season. The Saints, they're not playing good at all right now, and it just really depends on what happens when Jameis Winston is healthy. Is he going to be a guy that they can lean on, or is he a guy that threw 30 interceptions, 30 touchdowns, and 5,000 yards? So you just never knew how he was actually going to perform. I don't know the answer to that question, but with them being 2-4, I could reasonably see their floor being 6-11. But if they're playing good, competent football, they still have a tough schedule. But I could see them going as good as 10-7, maybe 11-6. But that would still put them about third in the division. Panthers are 1-5. God, looking through their whole schedule, realistically, I think they're going to hit the floor. I think they could win one more game. I think 2-15 is their absolute floor. That said, they could not win another game the rest of the season with what they seem to be doing from a managerial and front office standpoint. But 5-12, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they do know how to play professional football and that they could potentially steal some games that they're not meant to. 5-12, I think, is their ceiling, though. Panthers fans, you are in for a long one. You guys are looking as bad as everybody thought the Falcons would be. So I'm sorry for you, but until you get that quarterback situation figured out, it's all downhill from here. So I have, again, Bucks, Falcons, Saints, Panthers finishing exactly as they currently are. It would not surprise me if the Saints went ahead of the Falcons. I think any of those top 3 teams could still win the division. It's still within one game for everybody. It just really depends on how the rest of the season goes, injuries, so on and so forth. I'll probably make another video as we get closer to time about how I think we're going to finish out, but I think this is a reasonable prediction at this point in time. Moving on to the NFC North, we have the Vikings, which are surprising us at 5-1. Now, the Vikings have won a lot of close games coming from behind in several of them. Games that last season they would have lost, they found a way to win this year. You have the Packers at 3-3, a surprise this year for sure. I thought at worst they would be 4-2 right now. And I really thought they'd be about 5-1, but yeah, they're not playing good football right now, and it's time to panic if you're a Packers fan. They haven't lost more than 3 or 4 games the last 2 seasons each year, and they're already at 3-3, and I don't think they're done losing football games here. The Bears are 2-4, somehow are third in the division. The Lions are 1-4. So, looking forward at their schedules, the Vikings, again, they are kind of sitting on this weird teeter-totter. I could very easily see a lot of their games going either way, but given how well they're playing, given that luck does seem to be favoring them, I'm going to give their ceiling 12-5. I do think they're going to lose at least 4 games before the end of the season. They have a rematch with the Packers. I think the Lions could steal one from them after a previous close game where they were winning against them. The Lions offense, even though they got shut out against New England, I still think it's a very potent force, especially if DeAndre Swift can get healthy. Amon-Ra St. Brown stays healthy, and with Jameson Williams coming back sometime in the near future, I think very much they could be an offensive powerhouse, but their defense leaves a lot to be desired. I don't think they're biting people's kneecaps and trying to drag them out to deep water right now like their coach would like, but they're not a bad team overall. So moving on, the Bears, they're not playing good football. The teams they beat were either a fluke or not good. So they are currently 2-4. I realistically don't see them winning all that many more games. Their floor, I think, is 3-14, so winning only one more game the rest of the year and losing 10 more. I think their ceiling is only 7-10. The Lions are 1-4 right now. They have been the unfortunate victims of circumstance in a couple of situations where they should have probably won games. I have their floor. There's 1-4 right now after being off last week. I have their floor being 5-11. I do have their ceiling being 10-7, and I do think the end of the season you'll end up seeing the Vikings number one. It's just hard for the Packers with tiebreakers, with everything to come back. They basically need to gain 3 games on the Vikings right now, and I don't think they're going to do it. You have the Bears, then you have the Packers. I think that, like I said, they're number 2 in the division. I think the Lions will finish ahead of the Bears and possibly could have a winning record. I'm not sure that will end up happening, but that's certainly a possibility here. And then, like I said, the Bears, I think, finish bottom of the division almost no matter what here. Moving on, we have the NFC East, with the Eagles 6-0, the only unbeaten team at this point in the season. The Giants, a surprise 5-1 team who played really good football, beating 2 really good teams, or teams that we thought would be good, in the Ravens and the Packers in the last 2 weeks. The Cowboys 4-2. They have been hurt with Dak Prescott being out. He should be back either this week or next week, which will change their fortunes drastically. And then you have the Commies at 2-4, a bad football team that probably will continue to be bad, but I gave them a little bit of a benefit of a doubt here. The Eagles 6-0. They're starting strong. Looking at their schedule, they're going to be competitive in every single game they play. Now, do I think they're going to go 17-0? No. But they very well could be the first team to do that if they don't have a bunch of injuries and if they continue to play the type of football that they're playing. There's not a big reason for me to think that's not realistic. Do I think they're going to do that? Probably not. I think they'll probably slip up 1 or 2 games and end up, 15-2 as their ceiling. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. 17-0 ceiling is your undefeated right now. But they could lose several games here in the second or the last 2/3 of the season. I do think that 12-5 is their floor at this point. I think 6 more wins will be very easy for them to obtain. But it wouldn't surprise me if they kind of fell off a little bit and went 6-5 in the last 11 games of the season. Don't think that'll happen. It'll probably be somewhere in between. But I still have them winning the division no matter what. Giants and Cowboys are a little bit tougher. They actually have about the same outlook going forward. The Giants have a tough schedule, but the way they've been playing, if they continue to lean on Saquon Barkley, if they continue to find ways to not turn over the ball, there's no reason to think they couldn't at least win 5 more games, if not 8 more games. I think their ceiling is 13-4 as we go into the back 2/3 of the season. And again, that's a tough one for me to pick. The Cowboys right now, I think their floor also is 10-7, getting Dak back. Even if Dak's not there, Cooper Rush has proven that he's a perfectly fine game manager and can keep them in games, even against tough opponents like the Eagles. And the Rams, for that matter, outright beating the Rams. But Dak unlocks a whole different part of their offense, and I think when he comes back, you're going to see this amazing defense paired with an amazing offense. They do have a tough schedule left. I think that at best, they can expect to go 13-4, and at worst, 10-7. The Commies, similar situation to the Panthers. I don't think you're going to win a whole lot of games. Your offense will keep you in some of them. So I do have your floor being 3-14. I have your ceiling though being 8-9. I don't think you're going to finish this year with a winning record, but that's just kind of my thoughts on it, where I think you end up finishing. So the East, again, to recap, I think the Eagles are going to be the clear-cut number one team with a 12-5 floor and a 17-0 winning record. It is hard for me to call between the Giants and the Cowboys. The Cowboys do currently hold a tiebreaker over the Giants, should they have the same score or same record. Because of that, I am going to say the Cowboys finish second in the division, but they could finish with the exact same record as the Giants, and it would not surprise me to see the Giants being number 2 in the division. Either way, I think all 3 of the top teams are potential playoff teams here, and the Commies are going to be left behind for a top 5 draft pick. Moving on to the final division, the NFC, and again, we'll do the AFC probably tomorrow or the day after. We are talking about the 49ers, the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals. This is the most meh division I think I could have picked. The top 3 teams are all 3-3, and the Cardinals are 2-4. Only 1 game off, but there are some tiebreaker issues there too. They really are about 2 games off from being able to move up. So the 49ers just lost to the Falcons. They're still playing good on defense. Falcons just played a little bit better. We're at home and played a very complete ball game. They fell, and the 49ers fell apart a little bit. They're reasonably looking at their schedule. I think their floor is about 9-8. I think their ceiling is 12-5, which would be higher than anybody else's ceiling that I have right now. The Rams, 3-3, they have a tough schedule. It's tough to be the reigning Super Bowl champion because you just get all of the tough opponents here. Their floor is reasonably 7-10, and their ceiling is 11-6. There's about 4 games in there that I think are complete toss-ups, and they could finish anywhere in between. I really don't think they finish 11-6, nor do I think the 49ers actually finish 12-5. I think they're going to struggle a little bit here and there along the way, but they certainly could do that. Seahawks 3-3. They are doing much better than I thought. I thought they'd be competing for a top 5 draft pick. They look better than that to me. Geno Smith is humming with the offense. The defense leaves a lot to be desired, but they are scoring enough points to stay in games right now. Seahawks, I think we're seeing a floor of 6-11 and a ceiling of 11-6, and very similar to the Cardinals. The Cardinals now get DeAndre Hopkins back. They look very clearly like the weakest team in the division without Hopkins. With Hopkins, though, that's a whole different story. Last year, they started, I think, 7-1 with Hopkins before he was injured for a short period. But it's a different team with Hopkins in the mix. If he comes back and has the same chemistry that he did with Kyler as last year, then I think their offense will keep them in games. Their defense, again, leaves a little bit to be desired. I think they have the same outlook as the Seahawks. They have a 6-11 floor and an 11-6 ceiling. Any of these teams could win the division at this point, and any of these teams could make the playoffs. I don't think you're going to have more than 1 team from this division in the playoffs after the way the season has started, but it wouldn't surprise me if you did by the time we get to week 18 in the NFL. So, how do I think that's going to finish? I do think the 49ers with Jimmy G are going to find a way to finish ahead of everybody else. Rams, I think, will finish in second place, possibly getting a wild card spot. I think it would be the 7th seed wild card spot. Then you have I'm still going to say the Cardinals will finish 3rd and the Seahawks will finish 4th. There's something in my gut saying that the Cardinals are about to come back and come back hard with DeAndre Hopkins back in the roster. And I think the Seahawks have been playing slightly above their station. I think that defense and injuries at some point in time are going to catch up to them. But if Kenneth Walker keeps having a great year like he did in this most recent game where he started, who knows with them. But again, I don't know that I have a clear picture of playoffs right now, but I do have the Bucks winning the South with the Falcons being really close behind. I have the Vikings clearly winning the North. I have the Eagles clearly winning the East. I have the 49ers in a tough race winning the West. And again, I don't know how this is going to shake out. I do think the East will end up with 2 playoff teams, which means that there's only one at-large bid. There's only one at-large bid if you have 2 guys that are in wildcard spots and a division winner. So if I had to pick right now, I would say my Falcons are probably going to find a way to miss out on the playoffs. I would say the Packers most likely are going to find a way to sneak in there, and if not the Packers, then probably the Rams. But again, that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and we'll talk about the AFC tomorrow. Until next time, guys, rise up.